Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of like what we call here Gridiron Football, the Chase with Jace. Always has a rhyme like that, right? But I'm also joined today with Jeremiah Gray, who was of G Sports, does a great job of promoting the athletes here, not only in LSU but also high school as well. Does a lot of really good for our youth as well for Louisiana Elite. And obviously we're going to start off the show paying tribute to Kyren Lacy. I mean, it was a very unfortunate situation and everything. But when we talk about somebody, Jeremiah, I appreciate you joining the show. By the way, we always have to. We have to think about the positives, right? The positives that
Right.
person put behind. And I can remember going to LSU practice and, talking to Kyren, one on one. And he talked about the impact that you had on him a whole lot. So obviously it was great to have you on to talk about Kyren and the positive legacy he left behind. But just to get things started, Jeremiah, just talk about the relationship between yourself and Kyron over the years and how did that really start?
Uh, it really started way back when he was in middle school. Um, I played ball against his father growing up, Kenny Lacy. Dad was a hell of an athlete. Knew his mom growing up. She actually had Kyron when she was in high school, so I remember when she was pregnant with him.
Mhm.
And then I went off to college at Southeastern, and I didn't see him for a while. I moved away, and so I didn't move back into the Tri Parish area till probably around 2012, 2013, or something like that. And when I moved back, he was just getting into middle school. And so I knew who he was, and I saw him play, but we didn't start building a relationship to around his eighth grade year, going into his ninth grade year. And so, Kyron was always a really, really good basketball player. Um,
Mhm.
one of the best basketball players in our area. He really didn't have any aspirations of trying to pursue football when he got to high school or after high school to in college. And what ended up happening is he ended up playing AAU and with Louisiana Elite, organization I'm a program director for, and uh, he started kind of seeing that he wasn't getting recruited and really getting the interest that he thought he should get.
Mhm.
And me and him end up having a conversation in the airport about, let's give yourself another option, man. Not saying to quit, stop playing basketball, but let's see if we can give yourself another option, man. How about, go give football a try? I think with your traits, your size, your measurables, uh, I think you could probably go out there and be an impact player. And he was like, man, we got to talk to my mama. And so when we got back from the airport, we drove and went home, and we had a conversation with his mother, and his mother she was a little skeptical about it at first. Um,
Mhm.
but then she ultimately said, it's your decision, Kyron. If that's what you want to do, go give it a shot. And man, his first spring game against Edie White,
Mhm.
he had 6 catches for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I remember posting it on social media. And
Mhm.
I had a bunch of college coaches like asking me, who is this Lacy kid? Never heard of him. How big is he? Looks like he's huge. And
Mhm.
that's how I kind of took off. And we started going to some camps and stuff like that. And uh, a lot of colleges started falling in love with Kyron, and not just a football player, but a person too, because he has an infectious personality. And so uh, his junior senior year, man, he kind of just started taking those steps, man, where you could see him working out, working on his route running, working on his hands, just working on the different little nuances of being a wide receiver. Got to give a lot of credit to Ernest Harvey, who runs Camp Moolah down here in the Tri Parish, training him. He did a really good job of getting it prepared. Jordan Osimo too, who was the over the I forgot his title at LSU, but he
Sure.
did a great job of helping Kyron develop as a wide receiver as well. A lot of people don't know Jordan does a great job of training kids, especially at wide receiver.
Mhm.
And he's from my area, so he took that personal to try to kind of get Kyron acclimated to the position. And so, man, you know, Billy Napier, Jabbar Jalou, they did a
Mhm.
good job of recruiting Kyron out of high school. A lot of people don't know, man. Blake Baker, who's
Yeah.
on LSU
Right.
staff right now, was at Miami, and Blake was trying to flip him, man.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yep.
came to his basketball practice,
Yep.
trying to get him to. gee, look, this Miami. Y'all want to choose UL over Miami?
Uh,
And a lot of people thought Kyren was crazy for choosing UL over Miami, man. And I think what ultimately sold Kyren was, his loyalty to Billy Napier, his loyalty to Jabbar Jaloop. They just did a great job of having a plan in place for him, not just as a football player, but as a person, and being able to get him to reach his full version of himself. And Kyron's a real loyal kid, man. Anybody that really knows him, he's super, super loyal, and he just did not want to be committed to a school for that long and have a relationship with a school for that long, and then say, "Look, I'm not coming," and go somewhere 12 hours away with a staff that he had just met
mhm.
maybe 2 months before signing day. And I think it all worked out for him, man. He went to UL, was freshman all conference, and helped that program reach new heights. Well, you saw Billy Napier was able to take his coaching, him and his coaching staff to the University of Florida. And then that's what opened the door for LSU, man.
Yeah.
That's what opened the door for LSU, and Frank Wilson and Jordan Asamoah, uh, um, Brian Kelly. Um, those guys did a great job of trying to get him to come to LSU. A lot of people don't know, man. He was committed to Auburn, though.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. He
Yeah, he
was.
committed to Auburn. Yeah,
Mhm.
we went on a visit to Auburn. Trevon Reed, who's the DB coach at USC right now, was heavy on Kyren. Um, Coach Derek Mason was the DC over there. Cadillac Williams.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of those guys was trying to get Kyren to um come to Auburn, man, and Kyren actually committed while we was out there.
Hmm.
But you know, on the way home, you know, we had a conversation. I was just like, are you going to at least give LSU a shot?
Hmm. Right.
Just to hear him out. And he was like, yeah, I'll give him a shot to just, I'll do that for the home team. And once they got him in the stadium at night, and Brian Kelly was able to sell him on the vision he had for him and the way he saw the program going in the next couple years, Kyron got really, really emotional
Hmm.
about it, and he ended up committing, man. And you saw the maturation process from him from his first year at LSU to his
Hmm.
second year to this past season, man. And it's just unfortunate that
Yeah.
what took place last Sunday happened, man, because he was just a couple weeks away from getting his name called. Um, to be the next person, out of Tri Paris to be an NFL player. Um, and what I would say to a lot of people, man, that read all the newspaper articles and all the things that transpired over the last 3 or 4 months, man. I could be the first one to tell you, man, that he was misunderstood,
Hmm.
very
Yeah.
misunderstood. Super passionate guy about the game of football. Super, super passionate about people he cared about. And
Hmm.
sometimes, man, that passion got misconstrued. Sometimes I think some people took his passion and took it the wrong way. And sometimes, man, when you don't really know a person, you kind of just go off of what you hear,
Hmm.
or you go off of certain things you see people do. And we got to realize sometimes, man, as athletes and their kids,
Mm. Right.
you talking about somebody in their early 20s, man, that's going to make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes they're going to handle situations in a way that they probably shouldn't. Um, and one thing I can say about Kyren Lacy is he didn't have a malicious bone in his body.
No.
Uh, uh, Heart of gold. Will give you the shirt off his back. Um, One of the things that I always remember about Kyren is, uh, you know, he was always willing to put himself last and put others before him. That was from his teammates to a fan, a family member, somebody that he went to elementary school with. He would always want to put himself behind and put somebody else in front. And a prime example of it is when he caught the touchdown against Texas A&M last year.
Hmm.
He started crying, got emotional because he felt like he took away from Malik Neighbors breaking that record. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Because on the play before, Malik scored and he got called for a
Mhm.
holding.
Yep.
And so, that was Kyren in a nutshell, man.
Hmm.
That was Kyren in a nutshell, man. He just was a kid that was just super, super passionate.
Hmm.
And sometimes his passion um was looked at in a negative.
Yeah, I mean, he was always a guy that he wore his emotion on his sleeve, and that's what kind of guy he was. That's what kind of player you saw. I mean, you saw him every time he made a big catch, big play. I mean, you
Hmm.
saw it. You're going to know that Kyren made a big play. That's just what
Right.
kind of person he was, and it was really cool because the first time I've got to really notice him or hear about Kyren Lacy, I believe it was like around his junior year of high school, and I think it was a playoff game. It was Thibodeau and Walker, and it happened
Yep.
to be Brian Thomas on the
Yep.
other side of it, and he was at Thibodeau as well. And Miami's receivers coach was there looking at not only Brian Thomas but Kyren Lacy, and Kyren Lacy, just the story, right? I mean, it is a really good story. Everybody's going to focus on the ending, and they really shouldn't. But just being able to follow his journey and from the overcome the odds and the obstacles. He told us, I think that summer of last year, that he remembers going through every time going over the bridge and looking Tiger Stadium and saying that's
Yep.
I'm gonna play there. I'm going to play
Yep.
there. And
Yep.
he proved it, and he played at a high level. So he was determined, and he got there. It wasn't the easy way. Wasn't a 5 star or anything coming out of high school, but he found a path with the Raging Cajuns and balled out there and carved himself out a path to go where he wanted to go.
Yeah. And I'll say this, man. I know mental health has been
Yeah.
a hot topic as of late, as it should, and as it should.
Mm. Sure.
Um, what I would say to a lot of parents, family members, close friends, whoever that might be involved in an athlete's process or on them around them in on a consistent basis, man, just be very mindful of the unfair pressure that
Hmm.
you put on these kids because they're carrying so much weight
Hmm.
on a weekly basis, man. And I think something as small as I need a ticket for a game. You know,
Hmm.
to us that's small,
Yeah. Right.
but to these kids is a big deal because you don't want to let anybody down.
Hmm.
And you got 1,000 people in your family saying, "Man, I want a ticket. I want a ticket. I want a ticket. I want a ticket." And the moment you can't deliver for a family member, you kind of feel like you let them down.
Hmm.
And athletes deal with that. They deal with that, man, on a consistent basis when football season comes. And I think that's something that small people probably don't even think about.
Right.
Um, even from you know injuries. Um, being mindful of what you tell a kid. I can remember a family member telling an athlete one time, "Man, you fragile."
Hmm.
Something as small as that to us small, but to the athlete, it's a big deal because that's playing in his head when he's laying down at night, man. And you know, your thoughts are powerful, Jace. Your thoughts are powerful, and everybody has a breaking point. And when you have people that's supposed to be close to you and supposed to be in your circle and they're telling you things on a consistent basis, um, that you might not think is detrimental to their mental.
Hmm.
Um, it takes a toll on you. It
Yeah.
takes a toll on you. And I think a lot of athletes out there who have parents, these are conversations they need to start having, man.
Yeah.
And you have a conversation with the whole family and people that's around your child. Let's be mindful of what we tell our kids. Let's be
Right.
mindful of what we say. Let's not be insensitive if they have a bad game. You know,
Right.
be careful of the words that are coming out of your mouth because when they go home or they go back to their dorm and they lay down at night, man, you don't know how it's processing in their brain. And
Right.
I think I try to look at things in a spiritual room. I'm very sad and I'm heartbreaking that I'm distraught that Kyren has left us, man.
Yeah.
But maybe God did that to bring awareness to this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And because he was known, worldwide, and hopefully these conversations are being had in these living rooms with these families, man, about your mindset, your mental, and
Hmm.
and just understanding on how we communicate with each other,
Right.
to make sure your mentals are always in a good place, man. So we don't have a situation to where we have a breakdown
Right.
and we can't come back from it. So that's what I would that's the kind of message I think um we got to start putting out there to the world, man, and continue to do it, so we don't have situations to where kids going through something mentally.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale, right? I mean, and when you're talking about football players like Kyren Lacy, I mean, star LSU football player, and when your whole life in the game of football, you're being taught constantly to be tough, right? You gotta be tough. You gotta be a man. You gotta play. I mean, that's the game of football. You gotta be tough. And sometimes it's hard, especially it's harder for players to open up on their men and
Hmm.
just being vulnerable and open up because throughout your whole life you're taught about being tough and being that alpha dog, right? Being that dog
Right.
on the field. And sometimes it's hard to open up to that type of stuff.
Definitely, definitely. And and then the second part about it is, geez, man, a lot of these kids come from poverty, bro.
Yeah.
And a lot of these families are they're banking on their kid to make it, or that
Hmm.
uncle is banking on their nephew to make it, or that grandfather is making on their grandchild to make it, or that that older cousin, you know, and uh, those kids feel that weight. They feel that weight from the family or from those close people in their circle, and when they can't deliver, man, it's just hard for them to deal with. And so
Hmm.
uh, we just gotta be mindful, man, of what we telling these kids, and we gotta be mindful of not being insensitive to what they're going through on a daily basis. Just because they're getting paid a whole lot of money with this NIL, man, um,
Yeah.
it doesn't take away from the human.
Hmm.
You know, I'm a strong believer of this, man. They say sticks and stones may break
Hmm.
my bones, but words will never hurt me. Man, that's a lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the biggest myth, man. That's the biggest myth, bro. And because words do hurt.
Yep.
Words do hurt, man. And sometimes when it's depending on who it's coming from,
Hmm.
it could cut you deep. And so,
Yeah.
uh, I just hope, man, these families and people close to these kids start having these type of conversations, man, and start being more thoughtful of what we saying and how we interacting with them.
And really finally before we make the transition because I know you're at the spring game. We were actually at a camp this
Yep.
past weekend, so that's why I wasn't able to see the spring game. So we'll definitely talk about
Hmm.
that. But before you go and talk about that, just overall, I mean, you know what kind of I mean you talked about earlier, right, Jeremiah? All the publicity and like what you hear on the newspapers and media outlets and all that. But you just look at the tributes, right? Just look at all the people that came and said anything positive about Kyren and all the love and support that his family has gotten over the course of these last hard couple of days. Just and just wrapping up, give tribute as well to Kyren because you were close with him. You followed him since he was really young, and you knew about his journey and what kind of not only player but what kind of person he is.
Yep.
How will you remember Kyron Lacy the most when you remember him?
Uh, Loving kid, bro. Loving kid. Um, like I said in the beginning of the segment, bro, like just very misunderstood. You would have had to get to know him. A lot of people that said things about him on social media, if they only would have got a chance to know Kyren Lacy behind the helmet, uh, they probably would have never typed some of the stuff they typed on social media.
Hmm.
And you know, that really played a part into his mental as well, man. Reading that stuff and seeing all that negativity, it played a part into how he got into that mental space, man. But I'm always remember him as that kid that's smiling all the time, laughing, always joking around. Um, he checked on me more than I checked on him.
Hmm.
That's just the kind of person he was, man. Uh, very, very compassionate about when you're dealing with something. Very, very thoughtful. Birthdays,
Hmm.
anniversary, if you bought a new car, if you got a new
Mhm.
job, like he was gonna be one of the first ones to congratulate you.
Yeah.
You know, he was just an authentic kind of dude.
Mhm.
And if you talk to any of his teammates, man, all of them say, man, like Kyren really like treated me like I was family.
Right.
And this is guys that just came into LSU.
Mhm.
This is a guy that just came into LSU, man. And so I'm gonna always remember him, man, as that vibrant personality, that kid that'll give you the shirt off his back. That kid that, you know, no matter what's going on, me and him could always have these in-depth conversations, bro. And I ain't
Yeah.
even talking about football right now. I'm just talking about like life,
Mhm.
um, things that might be going on in his personal life. He was a good communicator. He was a good communicator, bro. And that's something I think a lot of people didn't really realize about him.
Yeah.
I think the media didn't get to really see that side of him all the way,
Right.
because he shied away from it because he was just afraid of the scrutiny and the negativity that he saw throughout the course of his 2 to 3 years at LSU. And it wasn't all bad publicity. I don't make it seem like the media just scrutinized him the whole time, but
Mhm.
it was some things that happened over the course of his 2 to 3 years, man, that really made him want to shy away from the media, man. But I wish they could have really got to know the Kyren Lacy behind the helmet, like so many of us in the tri pairs and like myself got to know.
Right. Coming from the 985, I really represent that area really well. And we actually were at LSU practice today and got the chance to talk with Brian Kelly. He mentioned it today. He was a bright star. And, usually when you talk about brightest stars, they fade the quickest. Unfortunately, that's what it was. He was larger than life, like 6'2", 230 pounds. He's a big dude, but
Yeah,
like you said, his personality was also bigger in life. And and anybody I got a chance to really know Kyron, he that's what he was.
yeah,
He was so full of life. He was energetic. Really, it's like the tombstone. Like it'll say the year that you're born. It's always gonna say the year you're born, year that you die. But the most important thing is what did you do in between that hash, right? And Kyron, was able to live that to the fullest. So Jeremiah. We're going to take a quick break right here. We actually got a chance to come up with a little tribute video for Kyron as well during the break. But we come back, myself and Jeremiah will talk about LSU spring practice. But I appreciate those words as well, Jeremiah, because you got to know Kyron really close. So we'll be right back on the Chase with Jace.
Kyren was a bright star. He had an incredible personality. I'll remember him as somebody that had a love for the game, a love for being a Tiger, and was a guy that played with great emotion. Uh, when you think of Kyron, you're going to smile most of the time because of the way he handled himself. He was a guy that was full of energy, um, and I think a lot of his teammates will remember him that way as well.
Am I the only one that didn't know Tamara Cleans supports gridiron football? At Tamara Cleans, we don't just clean, we care. Proudly serving Baton Rouge, our team delivers top-notch personalized service with a smile. Both home and office, we have you covered. From routine tidying to deep cleans, we make your space shine. Plus, we're huge gridiron football fans just like you. Mention you saw this ad on Gridiron Football and a get special offer, so why wait? Call us at 225-287-4761 now. Tamara Cleans, your trusted local cleaning partner.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Chase with Jace, and I'm joined with Jeremiah Gray of G Sports and Louisiana Elite, and over the years was really close with Kyren Lacy, and I got a chance to really follow his journey. In fact, I remember interviewing him after the Ole Miss game when he
hmm
caught the touchdown, and one of the first people that he came to hug, I think, after that play was yourself after
yep,
that play
yep,
happened. So I thought that
yep.
was cool. And he always talked about your relationship as well and how you were able to help him a lot through his journey. So obviously a good person to have on here today and talk about Kyren and his legacy and the positive legacy he left behind.
Definitely.
But yeah, for sure. Jeremiah, you were also at the spring game. I was actually going to contact you this week about the spring game because I saw your
Right.
notes from the spring game and
Right.
obviously having the current. But yeah, just want to give your thoughts. So we were actually in Texas for a gridiron camp that weekend. All you know how we're doing evaluations for the bowl game every year and everything. So we went up to Texas and did that. But your evaluations. It's not like I can go back and watch the spring game on
Right.
the
Right.
or anything. So tell me what you're able to see. I know you wrote a couple notes down and everything, and post them on social media. But what are your thoughts from the spring game?
Uh, of course, Mansour Delane popped out for sure in the secondary. Uh, you know, I followed him a little bit when he was at Virginia Tech, but seeing him in person, seeing his movements, seeing how competitive he was, he really impressed me on Saturday. I think he's going to be for sure top DB in the SEC next year. Um, I think he's going to have some versatility where they're going to be able to put him at safety as well if need be. I thought PJ Woodland looked really, really good in the nickel. He had an incredible interception
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the team period. And you can tell he just continued to ascend. Corey Raymond loves him. DJ Pickett, out there. I don't think DJ Pickett had any PBUs, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, but just watching him, man, in coverage, his technique, and just looking at that length, uh, I think DJ is going as good as advertised, dog. And I think having him, Jaheim Jackson, Mansour Delane,
Mm-hmm.
Ashton Stamps,
Sure.
PJ Woodland, they're gonna have some depth, at that cornerback spot, and it's gonna be uh definitely a bright spot on the defense. Um, I
It's looking
thought,
back like the DBU. It's looking like Corey Raymond's kind of bringing that back, and those type of guys we're used to seeing. It seemed like he's
yeah,
coming a little bit.
yeah. I thought Toviano at the safety position, he made a few good plays here and there. You could tell he's still a little rusty at the position. Um, but the thing about Toviano, when you're watching him, man, you could tell he has the traits and the
Mm,
size to be a good SEC safety. I think he just need more reps. He been playing corner since he got to LSU. I know he played it in high school, but I think just getting back acclimated to it. I think the more reps he got, and the more reps he gets going
mhm,
forward, leading to that first game at Clemson, I think he's going to get better and better. Deshaun Spears, I think he takes another step. I know he been dealing with a little injury throughout spring, but um, just looking at him back there, man, he shows looked the part. He shows looked the part, and I think him having a lot of experience in year one as a freshman, that's going to help him a lot. Going into fall camp and into the spring, and on the offensive side, man, Barryon Brown, you know what he displayed on Saturday, he for sure gonna be probably the most explosive playmaker. Being able to blow the top off the defense, being able to catch a bubble or a slant and take it 80. He's that explosive. He was able to. I think I want to say he had about 5 to 6 receptions on Saturday.
mhm.
I don't think he dropped a pass. I think Nuss missed him a couple times and overthrew him
Yeah.
on the deep ball, but he caught everything that was in his vicinity. Um, uh, Aaron Anderson didn't really. I think Aaron Anderson might have had one catch.
Hmm.
Him and Nuss just couldn't connect with a couple balls that sailed over Nuss. Um, I like the way Harlem Berry looked, man, coming out the backfield, bro. He
Yeah.
made some runs and that showed why he's so highly touted coming out of high school, bro. Just the movements. He didn't gain 10 pounds. I think that the more reps he get going into that fall camp, it's going to help him out tremendously going into the season. So you like that three-headed monster with Harlem, Caden Durham, and Caleb Jackson.
Sure.
And then if JT Lindsay could come in and uh, pick up on things quickly, that'll be a nice four-headed monster they got back there going into next year. And so and then you talk about somebody like Nick Anderson. I thought Nick Anderson was pretty consistent throughout the spring game on Saturday. I didn't realize how big he was.
Yeah, he's a
He
big dude.
Yeah, he's pretty big, and I was really impressed with his ability to be able to catch the contested balls. He had guys draped all over him, and he caught a couple. Um, that I was like, wow, like, if you're gonna come down with those kind of 50-50 balls, especially like on, when it's third and long or third and seven, he's gonna be somebody that Nuss is gonna be able to find. Uh Sharp though, man, the tight end.
Oh yeah, Southeastern guy came in from
Sharp,
Oklahoma.
yeah, Bar Sharp is definitely better than I thought he was. Uh I think this guy is gonna be one of the best tight ends in the SEC next year.
Yeah,
And then you got Trey Dez Green on the side of him.
yeah,
That's gonna be a really, really good 1-2 punch in that tight end room. Ball Sharp, I mean, can block, come down with the contested catches. His ability to be able to get separation at the top of his route. I was super, super impressed with him on Saturday, man. I think Nussett he's gonna have some weapons to play with next
yeah,
year. It was kind of hard to tell how good the offensive line was,
yeah. That's a
especially in
big.
the spring game.
Hmm.
You know, um, you know, I've been to a couple of practices, and it's even kind of hard to tell in the practices how
Yeah, right,
good they are.
right.
I know Weston Davis is the guy that's supposed to be inserted at the right tackle, and then you got Tyree Evans over at the left tackle.
Mhm.
Um, then you got Thompson coming in from Northwestern, and Moore coming in from Virginia Tech. You know what you're gonna get from them guys, but
Yeah,
it's Tyree Adams and the Weston Davis are the question marks on that O line. Even though Tyree did get some time, but he got time at guard.
yeah.
It's a whole different beast playing that left tackle, that blind side.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I'm interested to see how it's gonna all play out. But I will say this, man, just covering Tyree, in high school and
Hmm.
knowing his athletic ability at the basketball background, you know, I think he has the ability to be a really good left tackle. We just got to see him do it, and
Hmm.
we just got to see him be able to do it at this level. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And so, that's really my take. I thought Michael Van Buren too. Don't let me leave him out. I thought Michael Van Buren looked really, really good.
Yeah.
And this is no shot at Nussmeier when I say this, but I thought Michael Van Buren and Nuss looked like they kind of was on the same level
Okay. Yeah.
on Saturday.
Hmm.
I thought Van Buren threw with anticipation. He threw he threw a nice touchdown in the back of the end zone in a tight window to Kyle Parker. That I
Okay.
thought was like, wow, that was a lead throw right there.
Hmm.
And so you know about his mobility, and
Hmm.
he got some experience doing it in the SEC. And so I think the coaching staff left Saturday, saying to themselves that Michael Van Buren has a shot to be really, really good.
Yeah, and just from some of the things, and really Jacob, I saw some of the clips Jacob was able to post as
Hmm.
well. But it seems like that they are formulating a package for Jawan, because every now and then they have this one play where Nussmeier and goal line, he was at
Hmm.
quarterback and he
Hmm.
motioned out to the receiver, and then he came in from running
Yep.
back to quarterback. So it seems like they might have a little bit of some. I'm sure Joe Sloan is really hiding some things with Jawan Johnson.
Hmm. Yeah, Jawan, you could see, and he was live in the spring game.
Okay.
They had him live, like, yeah, they was able to tackle him in the spring game. And I was glad to see that, because at this stage in this process, it's gonna be too hard to evaluate him as a passer.
Hmm.
I think, it's just too early. The throws that he did make, I didn't hold it against him. But I kind of wanted to see, like, if he still had that athleticism we saw at
Hmm.
Lafayette Christian, and he showed it, man. Like, he was very slippery, making the first guy miss. And so it's gonna be interesting to see if Joe Sloan gonna have a package or two for him when the season comes, to kind of just keep the defense all balanced, and kind of use that athleticism, man. I think Jawan is somebody that is a super competitor, and he's going to work tireless to try
Hmm.
to reach his full potential as a quarterback. I can tell you that.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see that, and I know his thought process. Look, this is Nuss's last year.
Hmm.
I'm gonna try to get as many reps as I can,
Yeah.
learn everything I can about this offense, and try to see if I can get in a quarterback competition with Van Buren next spring.
Yeah, because that's what it's looking like. And, Colin Hurley returned back to the team as well. That was an encouraging sight at the end of spring. So we'll see how he how he's in the picture and how he falls in there. But just looking at the overall picture, Brian Kelly, I think he was even asked about that. This is the best roster he's had since he's been here. And I know this year is really a important year for Brian Kelly. But just going through all the practices, and I've been to a couple of them so far this spring. Do you agree with Brian Kelly that this is the best roster he has to work with since he's been here?
The offensive line is the only thing I have a question mark about.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
everything else, yeah, bro, they super talented.
Hmm.
When you talk about the edge rushers they brought in with Patrick Payton from Florida
Yeah.
State, Jamari Butler from Nebraska,
Hmm.
Fireburn from Florida,
Sure.
you know, and then on the back end with Jaheim Jackson, DJ Pickett, Mansour Delane, like
Hmm.
they brought in some talent, bro. And then what you got when you got Whit Weeks and Perk
Hmm.
coming back, they got all the tools on that side of the ball to be to get back to the old ways of being a top 10 defense in the country.
Hmm.
I think the only question mark you gotta have for that defense right now, man, is that safety.
Yeah.
I know Jordan Gilbert didn't participate Saturday. And then at the other safety, they've been trying to insert Joel Rogers in there.
Hmm.
I think that's the only question mark
Hmm.
that you kind of have for their defense right now.
Right.
And then offensively, man, they got all the weapons in the wide receiver room.
Hmm.
I think the running back room is really, really talented. And if we're going off the recent history with Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels,
Hmm.
the second year starting quarterback,
Yeah.
usually hit his stride and usually is a Heisman Trophy candidate or wins the Heisman
Hmm.
Trophy
Yeah.
or has their offense top five in scoring. And so if history repeats itself, uh Nuss should be in that same topic in that same category, bro. And so we're gonna see about that.
Yeah.
Tight end wise, we've been spoiled Mason Taylor over the last few years, but now you got Ball Sharp and you got Trey Dez Green. So
Hmm.
the offensive line is gonna be the only thing that I need to see
Hmm.
uh to be able to tell if this team has a chance to take it to the nat to be able to have an opportunity to play for a national championship, bro. If that offensive line is anything like how they look, far as
Hmm.
when you look at them,
Yeah. Oh
just
yeah.
the size and the
Oh
measurables and the athleticism they have, they're gonna be really, really, really good. And
yeah.
a dark horse, man, at that receiver position, man, Colin Billiard. And I don't want to seem like
Yep.
I'm being biased.
985. Yep. Uh
Yeah,
huh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He ended the scrimmage what a hell of a catch. High pointed over the defender.
Hmm.
And everybody stormed the field, and Brian Kelly kind of ended the scrimmage. And he's been showing flashes throughout spring that he has a chance to be really, really good. He's just still trying to put it together.
Sure.
Still young. He's gonna be a redshirt freshman next year, and so he could be a dark horse this year. That could be somebody that could probably contribute to that room.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's great to see him continue to get better and everything. I remember even writing an article about him just a couple of years ago when he was at Terrebonne High School. So,
Yep.
yep, yep. Really, the biggest I mean, talk about the O line too, real briefly. There's even some questions about your one returning starter from last year because DJ Chester, where does he fit? I mean, you got the center from Virginia Tech coming, Braylon Moore coming in. Does he stick at center? Does he go to guard? So even with your returning starter coming back, there are some questions there. But that's what you get for having the last couple of years being spoiled. Will Campbell, Emory Jones,
Hmm.
ever since their freshman year, and yeah, Garrett Dellinger is a guy we didn't really talk about that much if we get so hyped up about Campbell and Jones. But that's gonna be a big piece you have to lose because he's been there the last couple of years. Miles Frazier too. I mean, he's
Yep.
been steady the
Yep.
last 3 or 4 years. So
Yep.
now you just don't know. So what this O line is going to look like now? Brian Kelly says that you look at the pieces, they look the part. But the
Mm-hmm.
question
It looked the
is,
part.
who's going to emerge? That's basically the question. We probably won't find out until really deep into fall. So that's going to be interesting.
Well, that's why Brad Davis get paid the big bucks, man.
Yep.
You got these guys in there, man. You got to develop them. You got to get them on the same page. and you got to make sure you keep nuts clean and be able to keep and be able to create some running holes for Caden Durham, Harlem Berry, and Caleb Jackson, bro. If they do that, man, they gonna be a tough out this upcoming season, bro. So it's gonna be interesting, man. I think fall camp is when you really gonna be able to tell how good this offensive line is. And I
Mhm.
think, iron gonna be able to sharpen iron too, man. You're gonna be going to, like I said, we just talked about what they're going to have to face every day at practice with Patrick Payton and Mott
Right.
Fireburn from Florida and Jamar Butler from Virginia Tech, Sadir Mitchell that came in from Texas, and Dominic McKinley. He's somebody that got a lot of experience last year at D tackle. Who he's ready to take that next step. So it's going to be some big battles between the offensive line and the defensive line in them trenches to be able to see how good the offensive line it really is. And I think week one against Clemson is going to be the finished product we're gonna be looking for, bro. It's gonna be something that you know on the road
Hmm.
in a hostile environment. How they gonna face the noise, the crowd.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, we can't go down there and lose a week one game again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be
It
against.
might. Scott Woodward might be waiting for Brian Brian Kelly in the tunnel if that
Uh,
happens again. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's fair, man. I like BK, but the reality is, man, is that he got a lot of pressure on him this year.
there is a lot of pressure, and really fans are expecting playoff berth. They're expecting to make the college football playoff, expand playoff, the number one transfer portal class you got right now. Garrett Nussmeier coming back. A lot of people potentially seeing him as the best returning quarterback in college football. So, yeah, I mean, there is a lot of pressure on BK this year, and really is going. I mean, the Clemson game is going to be a great example of it. And you saw the last couple of years how that first game has been for Brian Kelly since he's been here, but it's not going to be a neutral site, like you said. It's going to be on the road at Death Valley in Clemson. So they're going to return. They return a playoff team from last year too. So yeah, it's going to be a big time showdown between the Tigers, and we'll see what we got there. Jeremiah, any final thoughts on just I guess spring going to fall? We have like one more spring practice we got until we got to go to fall. Wait for a while and get summer and get to fall camp. But any final thoughts on spring football and for what you're able to see?
No. I will say that I thought that watching Kyle Williams, with that D line, I love his passion. I love his enthusiasm that he showed with that group. You can tell he's connecting with them outside of the game of football. You could just tell the way they interacting with him. That he's gonna get him to run through a wall for him. And so I think that's big when you talk about getting that defense to reach his full potential, man. You know what I'm saying? You lost Bo Davis, who was one of the best D line coaches in the country, to the Saints. I think Kyle Williams is gonna show people that he's one of the best D line coaches in the country. Even though this is going to be his first year coaching college football, I think he's that good, and I think he's going to be able to get that D line to play at a high level. So that, I think he's somebody that people might not be thinking about that's going to play
Mhm.
a big role into that defense being good this year.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And Jeremiah, just anything you want to promote for G Sports? I know you and Jacob do a lot of cool stuff together, and just Louisiana League. Anything that you want to promote for yourself as well?
For everybody that might not have seen the movie Blue Chippers,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes. Yes.
go check it out. You can watch it on Amazon Prime or Apple TV. May 1st, it will be premiering on Tubi.
Okay.
Uh, yep, for free, for free.
I'm watching.
It's-
I'm gonna be watching it.
yeah, check it out, man. We got, I'm actually one of the characters in the movie,
Mm,
and I'm also an executive producer. We got four main characters, or four kids from Louisiana: Jalen Lucas,
mm-hmm.
that went to Terrebonne High School, then ended up transferring to Edna Carr.
Yep.
Laterrence Welch that played at Acadiana High School, Quincy Wiggins that played at Madison Prep, and Jacoby Matthews that played at Ponchatoula. It
Yep.
gives you a really, really good insight on the good and the bad at recruiting.
Yeah. It
Um,
is. Yeah.
And we even dive into the mental health aspect of it. And I think a lot of parents that are agreeing to this process and how this really goes, and even when you break down on how kids get ranked,
Hmm.
we break it all down for you. And so I think it's very, very educational and formative for a lot of athletes that's coming up, and a
Yeah.
lot of parents that's about to go through this process. So check it out, man. Blue Chippers, Tubi, May
Yep.
1st. If you want to watch it before that, it's on Apple TV and Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Blue Chippers, check it out. I mean, all those guys I covered in high school, so it's going to be really cool to see that, get behind the scenes. And you talk about athletes, it's going to be a really good, video that they can really, and parents, educational video for them. But I think it's also going to be really good for just a generic
Yes.
fans, so they get to really fully appreciate what it's like for a high school athlete getting to go through that process. So make sure to check that out. Jeremiah, I always appreciate the time, man, and always great catching up with you, and just looking forward to catch you in fall practice when we get down there in August.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you, Jace, man. I like what you guys do.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Gridiron Football, and make sure to go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. You can follow all of our stuff, whether it's LSU, high school football. We'll keep you updated on our camps and our All American Bowl game we always put on at the end of December. For Jeremiah, I'm Jace, and we'll see y'all next time on the Chase with Jace.